And the last thing we're going to talk about, it was probably one of the first things we were teased when Hasbro was rolling into New York Comic Con. We're going to talk about Studio Series Drift. More specifically, Studio Series Drift from The Last Knight. And he actually looks pretty darn good. Drift, his original Age of Extinction toy, was kind of the beginning of the end of movie toys in terms of them being the go-to for certain characters. Mm-hmm. Studio Series Drift, I did a review of him, and I found that, you were already seeing they're using less paint applications. They were simplifying the transformations. And we were going like, well, okay, and there was, in Age of Extinction, there was a few gems, specifically Scattershot, which I know you liked personally, that toy.
Yeah.
There was a few gems in that line. Some of the Dinobots.
And one thing I'll say about that Scattershot is that I think in the Last Knight series, they actually gave him 2 guns.
Mm-hmm.
They actually gave him his dual pistols. So I was like, oh, they actually like kind of quote unquote fixed it.
So again, like at least, it was kind of the beginning of the end of like really good mainline movie toys. And then we'd have to look to Studio Series to get the better versions of those characters. So here we have Studio Series number 36, Drift, based off of The Last Knight. And he's kind of cool because his box it's pretty much the display of Cade's junkyard, where he was chilling and hanging out. And then he comes with a whole bunch of the baby Dinobots, which is pretty cute. And you get the crew of the 3 of them, the mini Slag, the mini Swoop, and the mini Grimlock, if you will. They never really had names, actually, now that I think about it. And it shows, at least the display that they had here, is they show him balancing on the sword with the mini Dinobots, which is a nice little gimmick here to show you what you could do with your background, because that was a scene.
A little diorama right
there.
Yeah,
it shows what, it's because it shows that all these toys come with those backgrounds, so you could do something to match what was going on in the movie. I dig that it comes with the little Dinobots. It's a little extra bonus. I think that this more stems from the fact that when we got Studio Series Jazz, anyone that's handled that one, I've seen it in stores. I haven't bought it because it hits you when you pick it up. It is tiny for a deluxe. It is very small, a lot smaller than even the original 2007 movie Jazz. And so I think that they probably encountered the same thing here with this Drift, where he's going to be a lot smaller. So they probably went, what could we throw in to balance the cost? And so we get some mini Dinobots. And I'm all for that because I thought they were adorable. And so did the Super Bowl, when they were actually some of the hosts of the Super Bowl, because they were the mascots during some of the commercial bumpers.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I dig these guys. I think that anytime the Studio Series does stuff where you get little bonus extras that normally you wouldn't have as an individual release, like that Bumblebee with the Charlie that comes with the customizable parts, and in the case with this, with the little Dinobots, like if this Drift would have came out on his own, it wouldn't be on the radar as much for me. But this does interest me. The only thing that kind of sucks is all the photos we've seen thus far do not show alt modes, but it does show the robot mode, and as someone who owns this mold, the original mold, this looks a lot better than the original. This looks like there's a lot more going on in terms of articulation, in terms of extra pieces. The paint on the sword and the body looks really good. So Studio Series, you're doing your job. You're doing your job, gloriously. I think the only thing that I could suggest is after you release this one, if at some point down the line in the future you could do the original blue Age of Extinction one, and I know the Chinese market, they'll eat it up. So
I think the only thing that would be a bit like they couldn't do it in this this setting, this diorama, because this
they wouldn't
because this logo on Drift is obviously a Mercedes, and his blue, he's a Bugatti Veyron.
Yeah.
So I mean, it'd be a little bit different. Or they might make him the helicopter.
Well, what I was thinking is one possibility is that they use the basis of this mold to then do a retooling to then make that the Veyron, assuming they have even the license anymot
I kind of doubt it, because that's why he's probably a Mercedes car.
Part of me,
because the last Autobot that was a Mercedes. Well, there's 2. I think it was
Soundwave.
it was Soundwave and the other guy, the Q.
Q was one too, aka
Yeah.
quotes Wheeljack as he was called in his toy release.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Probably the license went out, and then they thought, well, since we're gonna do the Last Knight version, let's throw in the little Dinobots with the price point.
And I could see it being a kind of like a backdoor deal because the people that own Bugatti is Volkswagen, and it was probably, this is how we grease the reels to get Volkswagen Bumblebee, Volkswagen B. That's the big wheel greasing, is probably that. That's what I'm probably assuming.
Yeah, definitely, and especially too, that they're probably going like, well, you know what? We haven't done a drift yet. The last movie, had some good ideas there. Like you mentioned before, licenses expire. We did get a red drift-ish toy from the Last Knight toy line, which is extremely forgettable, and it was overpriced as heck. So this is something that's really cool. The only other thing worth mentioning was someone was looking at the box diorama, and they saw on the back that we had a teaser, because on the box it mentions that Drift is number 36 in this, but we don't know like the numbers past number 30 right now. On the box on the back, they saw number 32 as an Optimus Prime.
Okay.
Which Optimus Prime we don't know yet.
Evasion.
It could
Evasion.
It could be Evasion. It could be. You know what? Like when you really think about it, though, Wendell, like it's.
I want that Asian Evasion Optimus Prime that we talked about before. That's what I want here.
You know what? Like, because Revenge of the Fallen and 2007 Revenge of the Fallen was more or less the same design. Dark of the Moon really just kind of has the armor attached, which would have to be a higher price point anyways. And then when you get into Age of Extinction, you have Evasion, and then you have that newer truck that he ends up becoming with the big exhausts that are overdone.
Oh yeah.
And then again, the newer movie then had a brand new design there. From what it looks like, there's a very small image. It looks like it could be either Evasion or that very first movie design. It's either one or the other. It could be Evasion. We're probably going to find out more. This is still the first day of New York Comic Con, but I mean, we'll definitely see more as it comes.